Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fiscus Friday, January 21st, 2022. It's my pleasure to introduce Kevin Schoenwolf, our operations manager. Absolutely looking forward to everything that he has for us. And so, with that, I'll definitely turn it to you, Kevin.
Perfect. Thanks, Phil. Just wanted to start by saying that we're super excited to be joining this team of this great community. Really, um, I was recently added to the Discord here. I was able to go through some of the threads and some of the conversations in the community, and wow, it just made me that much more excited. Some real brilliant minds here, and yeah. So I'll give a little introduction into myself. As Phil mentioned, my name is Kevin Schoenwolf, and I am the operations manager here at Fiscus DAO. What my background brings is a combination of off-chain and on-chain experience that kind of mimics the project itself. So what that looks like is my main background is in organizational management, um, working with organizations to implement certain processes and procedures to increase organizational transparency and security measures. So my background is also in finance. I've worked many years managing portfolios and investments, not just traditional investments, but also alternative investments for net worth individuals, as well as working with companies that are publicly traded to improve internal operations. So I feel like I have a good experience in finance. And then most importantly, my experience in operational management stems from the tech industry and specifically helping software companies gain security compliances and run at more efficient rates through implementing some of these different SOPs and stuff like that. But before I go into more detail about what that exactly entitles, I'd like to introduce to you um, our team member. Is he in here, Ken? Yeah, go ahead, Ken. Okay, so it seems like Ken's having some trouble with his audio here, but I'll just give you a quick intro. Ken's been with Linkpoint for over 8 years. He's been in development for over 15 years, working in the aerospace industry and working on some great projects. His skill set is definitely leading dev teams in imagining and bringing to life projects. He's brilliant in that sense. So when he gets his mic working, I'll let him give a proper introduction there, but we're super excited to have Ken leading our dev team at Linkpoint. So in terms of getting back to creating organizational SOPs and processes to increase security and transparency among the community and amongst the stakeholders, some ways that we do that right now is this week I've been working on writing SOPs to limit access to sensitive information through internal security roles, by having proper password management and security phrases at different levels. And this is kind of just some baseline stuff for you guys. Some different encryption with data at rest and data at transit, audit logs, and other security features to, again, minimize security risk and maximize transparency amongst the community. So what I'm essentially doing is providing an extra layer of compliance and security for you guys too. Um, for our security compliance department, that's something I'm going to bring into effect as well. And we already have two experts in security compliance. One with finance, working with different markets and capital raises to make sure we're compliant there. And then one in the actual tech side to make sure, again, these processes and procedures are followed. We're going to introduce these members during next week's AMA. And we're super excited to have that security compliance on board to add that extra level of security and transparency. In terms of marketing, I will also be heading the marketing team, but we will be working with Tiago, who's just brilliant, and he's our marketing director. He runs a team of different marketers, and they run all sorts of successful marketing campaigns across different industries. And now, obviously, with our industry, marketing is a huge aspect. Um, this will be a large component of success for Fiscus. Being able to reach industry leaders who will understand the technology and the meaning behind the community and behind the DAO. So our marketing manager, we're working on getting him in a call here in a few weeks. And again, I can't reiterate enough how excited I am to be part of this project and to be working with all of you guys in the community. With that being said, I'll pass it back over to Phil. I know he wants to speak about some Fiscus projects coming up.
Thank you so much. Absolutely, Kevin. Definitely, as the last AMA when we talked about really the advancement of Fiscus and where we're headed, the proof is in the pudding, as they say. For us to evolve continually and on schedule, for what we have planned, obviously for the third week of February, you guys are seeing the evolution of that. One of the things that obviously was released was the Fiscus projects announcement and overview. I know there's been definitely great questions and feedback on that. There's excitement about that. Again, this represents the full manifestation of NFT utility. Again, we've what we've done in a nutshell, and of course we'll over the next few weeks we'll get into the advanced kind of full-fledged tokenomics even on not only on the NFT and utility, but on core Fisk as well. Some of those outstanding points that individuals would want to kind of know about and see. These are the individuals that you'll be able to ask those questions to specifically. It's not just me. And even with that being said, the beauty of Fiscus projects is that we've taken what has been in project finance and in structured finance, and by bringing that on chain, again, the focus has always been on how do we bring revenue on chain, how do we bring assets on chain. That part, in a way, is simple. The more complex element is how do we involve everyone in doing it? How do we take what normally is being done by 2 and 3 aggregators and facilitators and their own private networks, and how do we expand that? And Fiscus Projects is exactly how we do that. And so that's something that I'm very excited about. I'm excited that now, because we've advanced to this point, I have more time to dedicate towards that, more time to dedicate towards even additional off-chain projects. That's my strength. We always talk about let's have everyone play really to their strengths. And so very thrilled about that. And I'll answer some of these quick AMA questions here, and then I'll turn it back over to Kevin, and perhaps we can get Ken back on as well. Diving in there, let me get to the right channel here. Okay, so we have here starting out. This is a question about the LBP. Again, the thought was, really around a price point. When we talked about the price point, we've always said this, and we'll continue to stick to this. And the end question there, and this from BSID 24, is that do we feel the same? Feel that we've recovered kind of from a quantitative perspective. I would say absolutely. The projects we have, and this gets into a further question that we'll get into in a moment, absolutely are not only there, they're being locked in, more projects daily. What we're doing is we're getting them past all these projects, past the initial documents, past the agreements and negotiations, to the point where they're coming into the community. So when you guys see them, you know exactly not only what their project is, already know their strengths and their weaknesses, and you're able to ask them those pertinent questions. Those channels that have been designed by the admins are there for that. And so those projects will be there. Those first 3 you'll have access to by Tuesday, this upcoming Tuesday, inside of those rooms. And so you'll be able to do exactly as we said that you would. You'll be able to ask them questions and learn more about them specifically inside of this amazing community. And so by doing so, obviously we'll be able to learn from them and see the types of projects that really appeal to the Fiscus financing that we've arranged. There is a substantial post on the liquidity squeeze thesis that will be posted. That will be posted before Tuesday as well, before Tuesday 10 p.m. Tuesdays and Fridays seem to be our kind of our big days. And I think that's great to have that pattern of that so that you guys can also expect that those 2-day Friday duality. Definitely excited to kind of break that down in additional detail. There's a 3-page more or less thesis right now, and there's 2 diagrams being prepared so that you guys can kind of see, even though we are new to the on-chain, obviously we brought in the experts, but from the perspective of our tokenomics, we take macroeconomic standpoints. We are bringing on off-chain elements that have been in existence for hundreds of years and crafting them towards the on-chain. But by still dealing with off-chain firms, those economics then are sound. And so that's part of what we'll get into. And we're excited for lively back and forth on that as well. As we always say, we don't shy away from discussion. Even as we evolve, we are still the Fiscus of 3.5-hour AMAs at points and answering every question. That's core to who we are. And so getting into those questions, one of the questions, this is number 3 here, was about the, was about, as far as the LBP and the $15 price point, basically who's buying. If those in the community have participated in NFT and whitelist, and if we're making projects and project developers and owners purchase after launch, then who's the LBP for? And the answer to that is more or less kind of twofold. First answer to that is the additional marketing that's happening, what Kevin was alluding to, what Tiago is working on there, growing our community, increasing our community. Obviously, we see the demand there. There are several projects that we would like to bring to the community that have some social elements. They would also like to participate in the LBP, but we want to bring that really to the community and see if that's something that is even agreeable. And we'll be doing that here in the next week, because that's a decision that needs to be made quickly, because it's already January 21st, and we all know where we're headed in around this time in February. Getting into the next question here. There was a question about one of the larger projects, which was over 7 billion. Is that still on the table? It absolutely is on the table. The second part of that question was about the expected revenue to come to the treasury from that project. It's right around 280 million within the first 6 months of us starting that project. Those are the numbers that have already been negotiated, already been signed off on. That's not one of the 3 that will be available on Tuesday. It'll be available shortly after that. There's some scheduling that needs to be done on their side before they're able to really kind of participate fully in the Discord. And so just full and complete information there. Next question was about again, really kind of more about the LBP. About additional announcements on, let me see here, additional announcements, basically what we can expect, what you guys can expect from additional announcements. The whitelist hasn't been completed yet. What's obviously just been completed is the elements of deciding and verifying whitelist eligibility. The announcements that are going to be made will still happen after whitelist is fully completed. And again, the reason for that is from a macroeconomic standpoint, we don't want to muddy the water. Similar to how we did with the Fiscus projects, we could have released that information, potentially earlier, but we didn't want it. 1, we didn't want any confusion. 2, we want to just complete one phase before we go on to the next. We have to be methodical, because again, we're doing something that absolutely has not been done. But everyone can check for their roles for the whitelist. That's something that, again, the admins have assigned those roles. And so that's something that is very easy to do. You can check that. There's no need necessarily to DM on that. You can save time there. Simply check that. If there is a question about that, feel free to DM an admin or one of the mods, and they'll guide you through that. Absolutely. Another question here was talking about let me see here. Basically, my perspective on token price. It's always been those that everybody that's been here more than maybe a week or two, that I am a capitalist. I'm a core capitalist, and from that standpoint, it absolutely is about price appreciation. And so, inside of the elements of the liquidity speeds, and the reason we're even doing an LVP before launch is really it's from that basis. It's from that thought. How do we create the greatest price appreciation of a token that we feasibly can do? And then how do we sustain that? Sustaining was always the start. That's from the utility. Growing the treasury via off-chain means that we are not at the whims of a bear market. We know that ETH is in the twos right now, right? That does not have a bearing on our future, on where we're headed. It doesn't have a bearing on launch. And that's a breath of fresh air, honestly, for those that have, let's say, other crypto holdings, to have something that is not kind of typical market base, that does not have the same risk from a bear market perspective, is awesome. From that perspective is awesome, and that's been the goal the entire time. Okay, here. Next question here was getting into, does the team own or any NFTs or have plans to acquire them, considering that 0.1 threshold on the on sponsorship? Again, we would love to be able to have some projects sponsored. So the answer there is that absolutely it would be up to the community at that point. But we would, we have certain projects, but we know that our projects, we don't want at the forefront. We don't want there to seem to be any semblance of front running when it comes to projects, to utilize that term there. Next question, are we allowed to transfer Pfist from the NFT wallet, or can we only redeem Pfisk on launch from the whitelist from the wallet that we bought the NFTs from? There's again, being core capitalists don't like limitations. The reason that there's compliance, especially now, and thank you, Kevin, for speaking on that too, is really because we know that we are in a semblance, we're in the Wild West, and at the same time we need checks and balances. But from a capitalist perspective, I don't like limits, and so again, I am much more in the position of not having those limits. That's something that we've gone back and forth on, but that's fully my perspective. How much do we plan to invest in marketing before launch, and where do we plan to invest at? Thiago will definitely speak more thoroughly on that and more expertly, and so I definitely want to leave those thoughts to him, as he is the expert there. But I can say this: the point of marketing is to grow for that LBP and launch. The reason that the big guns are here is for that purpose. And so again, we will back them in that to accomplish that objective. Next question there. Do we know how long we'll have to be able to buy the whitelist tokens? The thought there is absolutely 48 to 72 hours, leaning always closer to the 72 hours. We want everyone that is whitelist eligible to have the opportunity. We know that obviously right now, when we're talking about crypto, there is some volatility, and those that unfortunately have had some losses in ETH and some other things, you may need some time there, and so we definitely appreciate that, and we love that we could make available a 72-hour time frame so that you have plenty of time. Next question there. Are we expecting there to be an open market for Pfisk? We're not setting one up. We're not backing that. Our focus is on full launch. It's on Fisk. We're at the same time without certain limits. We have expectations. We know that some may take things into their own hands, if you will, in a manner of speaking. For us, we are just focused on the larger picture, and we don't want to get sidetracked by really looking at some of the things that could be done with Pfist. Next question there. Based on the existing projects that are already done, basically how much buying power is there for Fisk at launch, ballpark or approximate? We're definitely in the 22 to 30 mil range right now, trying to increase that substantially here over the next 2 weeks. And so I think part of what you'll hear from me, other than maybe some additional details on Fiscus projects and Fiscus Plus and talks about that, is really a lot of on-chain from me over the next 2 and 3 weeks. And again, it's wallets and funding of those wallets by projects. It's some of these larger projects and really talking about them and making sure that their wallets are also funded and everybody sees those. And one of the admins already created a bot to be able to track these wallets, so everyone will be able to know and be able to see that. Again, proof is in the pudding always. When it comes to next question, front-end web design, layout, UI, getting a sneak peek on that. That's something, again, over the next 2 weeks, that's something that I know that obviously Kevin's team is dealing with and taking care of. And so there will be that. Absolutely. Based on the number of, this is the next question, based on the number of NFT sales completed and whitelist token sale, what's the approximate number of coins that are going to be distributed before launch? We'd always planned on there being right around 6 million is a number that we've talked about, substantially, because of what we call the FUD wars, months ago. And when we look into, current whitelist, I think we probably could end up being closer to 4 million, which is great for everyone and this is, assuming that most here on the call are NFT holders or whitelist eligible. That's great because that gives you a longer runway before the halving at 10 million tokens. And so again, that's where we're at. We're not looking to expand the LBP based on the fact of needing to hit this 6 million token mark. It really is the opposite. The goal of the LBP is a limited amount of tokens, again, for the setup of great price appreciation and the further liquidity squeeze, if you will. Next question there. It's a follow-up here. Again, this is going back to liquidity squeeze, so we'll answer that in the post there. Question 17 is the obligatory win moon, or we used to get the win whitelist question. Again, very excited about this third week in February, and as everyone sees things progress, you'll be seeing this. When it comes to experts in tokenomics, it's not only there from an on-chain perspective, but it's also there from the off-chain perspective. Again, by focusing on normal macroeconomic standpoints from project finance, we've taken out so much risk from a tokenomic perspective. There is so much risk that's been mitigated. And I think that, again, we talk about this when we talk about revenue, but when we look at other protocols and the things that they're trying to do with off-chain projects and off-chain investments, they're doing it from a risk perspective, from a risk-full perspective. Let me say that. Their thought is really not on mitigating that risk. It's just on bringing those assets on chain. And so, again, I would ask the question to them. I would ask the question to the community of what's the point? What's the point of bringing an off-chain investment property asset on chain with the same risk that exists off chain? all you've done is just turn something into a token, or you've tokenized something that has the same element. We have to be better. The point of Fisk is to be better, is to when we bring it, it's pure and it's unadulterated and it does not have that same risk. And so again, let's get into more details on that. And those that have more questions about that, let's really get into that, because I feel like that is the deciding thing, the deciding factor between Fisk and others when it comes to the off-chain, on-chain dance, if you will. Next question there. How big is the percentage of all NFTs they need for voting? As I read through, and this is a question from Jackie Bay. As I read through the Discord, every NFT gets 50 mem per vote, so that when you have, he's just confirming here, when you have, he or she, excuse me, is confirming here that when you have 10 level 1 NFTs, that you get 500 mem. That's correct. The reason that's there, and this is I think a great time to answer this element. The reason that's there is because when you look at, and those are in project finance know this, when you look at project finance and you look at the fees that are there for facilitators and aggregators, the fees that these projects are used to paying. What we've done is taken those fees that they're used to paying, and we're just dividing that up between the NFT holders. Then when we look at the revenue, that revenue is there, again, from the financing side, from arranging the financing. We've taken that revenue and we're just dividing that up as royalty between the NFT holders. There's no difference there. And so, yes, it is every vote in that sense. What we will have to agree upon as a DAO is the percentage of approval, whether that percentage is 70%, whether that percentage is 51%, whatever that may be. There'll be a voting period for each of these projects. And during that time period, everyone that is an NFT holder will have the ability to vote on that NFT. In totality right now, we're about 3,100, 3,150 in total NFTs. That's level 1, 2s, and 3s. And so again, when we look at total voting, if we had 100% participation, that's how many votes that we would see. Excited about that. Yeah, I'm very excited about that. Again, from the DAO perspective, our goal has always been to do things differently. The benefit of the history that we have over the last 2 months is that we truly have the opportunity to be the most transparent DAO that exists. A lot of these projects, we have had some, and I want everyone to know this as well, because it's not a question of do we accept everything and will we accept everything. If a project is not willing to abide by the transparency that we require as a DAO, then that's a project that we cannot fund, and unless they are willing. And I think that's something that needs to be said. Absolutely. Next question here. What would be a realistic projects with set aside divided by projects with revenue sharing ratio in the future? The goal has always been for all projects to be revenue sharing. We started with the ones, again, from a regulatory perspective. We started with ones that we really looked at and said, okay, these are projects that are in our network. These are projects that need financing. But at the same time, we know that from a regulatory perspective, some of those are ones that we could not take revenue from, that we didn't want to dive into that quite yet, especially before launch. And so based on that, in the future, 90% would be our objective. With those that really couldn't qualify for a revenue share, simply being projects that are so great, but they have some element where that is just not feasible, or from a regulatory perspective, we just can't do it. But the project is great, and maybe it's a larger project, so the benefit to the community is great. And so that's the answer that I thought there. And the last question here before I turn it back over to Kevin, regarding the process of validating a project with revenues or margin sharing fees, as it demands more technical abilities comparing to the vote for non-risky set-asides projects, what will be given to the community members, NFT holders, to help them vote on the sustainability of a given project? And again, I'm just finishing this question here, not just deciding if it's a good project, but if the project is really able to generate revenues or margin to be shared in the future or not. The benefit we have before projects are actually really brought to us is that they've been approved from an off-chain standpoint. And so we know that there's a first level of them being able to be financed. Now we have, is it a project that we as Fiscus want to do or not? Then after that vote, we have that governance. And the reason that governance group is somewhat smaller and it's limited to level 2s and 3s, it's not an arbitrary thought. The reason there's a lot of involvement there. We want that exact involvement in that sustainability of those projects from level 2 and level 3 NFT holders. There's additional votes. There's additional expertise that some will be taught, some will be explained, some will be brought in, and individuals will need to be able to sit in, let's say on an hour or 2 hour long, AMA with an expert. We have community experts, one of which that I will have a conversation with over this next week, that their expertise is in just this. It is in not only verifying projects for their sustainability, but also looking at it from a science perspective. We're talking about renewable energy projects. And so again, we're looking for members in the community to step up in those roles and lead some of these discussions. A lot of those members now are already level 2 and level 3 NFT holders. But at the same time, we know that moving forward, we definitely will be in the position where we are able to dictate to projects and say, okay, listen, we were going to utilize this expert from our community. We're going to utilize this law firm from our community. And so by doing that, we're getting the expertise, but we're also getting it based on our needs. And so very excited about that. Very excited about that. Let me see here. Make sure I didn't have any other questions very quickly. That's all I had there. Feel free to put any other questions absolutely into the AMA questions. Those that were not answered here, we'll answer those via print, if you will, here in the Discord over the next kind of 24 hours. Some of those other questions. And with that, I absolutely want to turn it back over to Kevin.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Phil. I think it's great, the transparency that this community has, and they can ask the questions that they want, and you're here to answer them every week. I think that's fabulous. Quickly, before I wrap things up, I wanted to reintroduce DevOps Manager, Ken. So Ken, are you here?
I am here. Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
I'm here. Hey, everybody. Sorry about that. Looks like I was talking to myself for a little bit here before I realized it wasn't working. But yeah, I just wanted to give you a quick introduction to kind of who I am, what I do, my role here at this project. So I've been with Linkpoint for basically almost 8 years here, and I lead kind of a brilliant team of designers and developers. And we'll be kind of running the project management in that regard. My background kind of here has always been in development. So even before Linkpoint, I've been working with the aerospace industry, building web applications and databases for manufacturing. So I hope to kind of bring some of that lean experience to this picture as well. Obviously, we've been saying, we're all quite excited to be working on here with Fiscus and kind of with you guys, the community. And there's one thing I wanted to touch back on in an earlier question with in regards to getting a sneak peek to the UI, if I could, just for a minute. It's something that we are definitely started on And we work closely with marketing. So Tiago is kind of building out his marketing plan, and we'll take his considerations into how we form the UI for you guys. And hopefully we can, in a few short weeks, be able to show you something. And just so that there's a little bit of progress here on our end. Other than that, that's me in a nutshell.
Perfect. Thanks, Ken. I appreciate that intro. So yeah, just to touch base and kind of close things out here, I just wanted to reiterate how excited we are to be working on this project, going through this community with such brilliant minds, and how we're able to bring a element of organizational control through transparency and increasing efficiencies. So just to give you guys a quick background, the Linkpoint team, we have about 12 to 15 members who will be working on this project, anywhere from devs to marketing to supporting me in compliance and operational procedures. So yeah, we've got a great team here. We're really looking forward to working with you guys, and that's all I have. Do you have anything else to close out, Phil?
I do not. Thank everyone for being here and look forward to next week.